Erik had stayed in touch with folks here ever since his departure, and was obviously a guy that left on good terms and was a good character. Mid-season acquisitions, we love him to speak English and adjust quickly, and having played for the team before with some of the same guys and the same coach in a similar system, those things all argue for a quick transition and adjustment, so hopefully that's what will happen.
So this time around, did you reach out to him, or did he reach out to you when he wanted to come back? How did that work?
We've been in touch for a while, off and on, over a period of years in terms of the organization. And like with a lot of guys, you keep tabs on them for over long periods of time. And maybe you're not talking every week, but every couple of months you're checking in. And it came together where he had been for 6 months with the team in Denmark, and was willing to come back to Seattle. And I think is excited for for what his long term could be here in Seattle.
Touched on a little bit in the past, but now that the process is done, so what all hurdles did he have to go through just to even get here? I know it's sort of a complicated process with the visas and everything else.
Well, I mean, the biggest obstacle is that he had to get married, and I think for him it was particularly traumatic. I'm half kidding, but I think I'll let him talk about his family if he wants to. But I'm obviously joking. But it was easier to get his wife and his children a visa if they were all part of a family. So that was a decision that he made as part of the process, and as I understand it, when he went back, in 2011, part of the issue was Swedish citizenship, which would be conferred if his kids were born in Sweden. So, you can ask him about that. He'll have those details. But no, I think he's a really good family guy. So I think he fits with our group, fits with the city. Again, is real comfortable, and in terms of the ins and outs, every visa process has some vagaries and some hallways to walk down, and it's a process, and you get through it, and hopefully you get over the finish line, which we did.
Sure.
I know you weren't here for his first stint, but how do you see him fitting in this time around?
I think he's a really versatile player. From what I've seen in the couple days he's trained now, he's very clean. He's very simple. Everything is 1 and 2 touches. He has a very good vision for the field, and I think he's a player who's really going to help us connect passes.
What about personality-wise? There's been a lot of talk about how he's a good chemistry guy, good locker room guy. Have you seen just him fitting in personality-wise too?
Yeah, I mean, he knows Brad, and probably the best of the guys. And Brad's not here right now, but yeah, I mean, he's an easygoing guy. He fits in pretty well with the group. He's friendly. He's outgoing. I mean, things that generally make you walkable and likable in most walks of life. So, I think he's a good fit.
No, I'm sure you probably talked to the other guys about this since we've been here, but the new allocation money and what that means to the team and to the league. How do you guys see that being used, and how do you plan to use it?
Sure. The targeted allocation money, $10 million league-wide to spend on good players. In the simplest terms, I think it's an update of the DP rule. Previously, guys over about $500,000 counted as designated players. Basically, what this rule does, sorry, Jackie, is talk too much with my hands. Now the guys over $1 million count as DPs, and so it gives you a little bit more roster flexibility. It gives you a little bit more money to target those guys. But it's worth pointing out that all of these things were available in some form or fashion before. This just makes it easier. There's all kinds of what I would consider accounting mechanisms within the salary cap, whether that's DP or homegrown or Generation Adidas or now targeted allocation money. They're all different buckets, and it's all part of the system that you manage, and you try to make efficient transactions. This makes it a little bit easier to make some efficient transactions between $500,000 and $1 million, and I think league-wide will free up some DP slots for some teams.
Are you actively in the market for someone?
The transfer window's open, right? I mean, that's at least arguably what they pay me for is to find players. So presumably when the window's open, that's what we're doing. But look, I appreciate kind of the ongoing speculation. I understand why there's so much interest, but we got to be focused on our team here in Seattle. We might ultimately do something, we might not. Certainly, we're going to look, but we're always looking, and right now we haven't had a great run of results, and again, we're going to take a long-term view on what's good for our team, but we need to be focused on the guys that are here, and if that changes at some point, then it'll change and we'll adjust. But I think it's really important for us now to remember that the guys who play on the weekends are the guys that are on our team right now, and something you read in a foreign media outlet or somebody that we made a phone call with, those are just conversations, and they happen. It's a normal course of business, and might come off and might not.
If you were to bring somebody in, what area of the field would you like to fill a role?
I think we need, we've been shut out 4 of the last 5 games. We struggle without Oban Clint. I think most teams in the world would struggle without 2 strikers of that caliber. But I think we need another player that's goal dangerous. So I think you can broadly define that, whether that's somebody coming out of midfield who can score a bunch of goals, or somebody who can play wide and up top that can score some goals. But I think they have to be goal dangerous in some form or fashion, because that's what we've lacked in those guys' absence.
With the new allocation money, do you see how it's going to change in the league a little bit with the players that LA and New York have been able to bring in, and some of the other teams have kind of upped the standards here in MLS?
The guys at NYCFC signed Pirlo and Lampard. I mean, those are just DPs under the old rules. So not to push back at all, but I don't know that it's that different. I mean, if I've seen speculation about guys that the Galaxy might sign, but again, they're not in the Galaxy right now, as far as I'm aware. So, if those guys sign somebody at some point, great, and it's good for the league. And I understand the temptation to always be looking at what's he doing over there. But we got to worry about our team. And if when our team, when we had our full team, was the Supporter Shield leaders in the league. And we need to remember that. And we have a good team, and we're going to focus on what's good for us and what's good. And I honestly don't care what the LA Galaxy do or what the Portland Timbers do or what anybody else does. We got to worry about what we have and how we are going to play. And if we do that and we get it right, we're going to be okay.
Is the depth of your team as good as you might have thought? I mean, granted, everybody would be harmed losing a Dempsey and an Oba, but did you think the drop-off in goal scoring would be this dramatic?
Look, we obviously hope that some of those other guys could step up. And again, as I said, when those guys left, we hope that collectively, we didn't think we had a one-for-one replacement on the roster. I don't think anybody in the world does again. But could we collectively generate a little bit more offense out of midfield, out of some of the guys that didn't play striker all the time, but we're now getting a chance. And that obviously hasn't happened. So you got to adjust and you got to react. And to the broader question of do we have good depth, I actually think we have very good depth. I think when you lose 6 players at a time, then there's always a tipping point. You need a critical mass of, let's call them older, experienced players to help the young players. And if you get past that tipping point, it becomes more challenging because the young guys, they lack collectively some of the wisdom and knowledge that they need to succeed. And we've seen some of those struggles. To be fair, I think we've been pretty good defensively through this whole stretch. We've been pretty organized. And if you look at some of our depth on that side, I think we're all right. Again, we just haven't gotten the opportunities going forward, and we haven't scored a ton of goals. And that's something we got to address.
And then just while y'all are still at the top of the West, the red line has come much
Yep.
closer. Does that affect your time frame at all? Can you wait till August?
No, look, the transfer window's open for 3 weeks, I think now. August 6th it closes, so it doesn't affect anything. I mean, by the time, if we sign somebody today, by the time you get visas and all this stuff in, it's going to be, a race to the finish line to get somebody in by August anyway. So, in terms of, and this is what I said at the beginning of the transfer window, you cannot, there's no point in speculating, there's no point in worrying about when help is going to come, because it may or may not come, and we are going to be a totally different team by the time it arrives than what we're looking at right now. And again, you're talking about potentially 5 or 6 or even 7 starters different than what played this weekend. And again, I think those guys that played against Chicago are good players. I think they will continue to get those opportunities over the next 2 weeks in particular. And I hope more of the guys seize the opportunity. And if they're not able to, then we will upgrade and we'll try to continue to improve our group.